Okay, we're live. Good afternoon, and welcome to our visitors. You're listening to WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You may watch us on YouTube, Smart TV, Roku cable channel, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, log on to www.wcegtalkradio.com. I am Ernestine D. Pittman, host of Take a Stand for the next hour. Today, we have with us one of East Point's youngest council member from Ward C, Tremayne Mitchell. On East Point City Council, you can see he is a handsome young man, not burdened down by the problems of a council yet, even though they're working his nerve. He's here today to help us with our series, Corrupt Government. He's here to talk about solutions. Of course, people know problems. We don't need to keep hammering the problem. But what are you going to do about it? And for the next hour, Councilmember Tremayne Mitchell, Ward C, East Point, is going to talk to us about what he sees as a problem and how he is trying to work out a solution that's going to be beneficial to the citizens of East Point as he carries out his duties and responsibilities as a council member. All right, Councilmember Mitchell, let's see what you have to say.
Yes, ma'am. Firstly, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor, and I'm very happy to have this conversation with you. So, as we get started, it's a lot to unpack. So, firstly, I would like to say I've noticed two overlapping themes, and when it comes to transparency and accountability, and the first one is lack of oversight. I think, which is even more importantly, the second one is lack of enforcement. Uh, I think that's one of the reasons we can't keep a finance director or city manager, even though I think we have a permanent one now. Thank God. I think he's hit the ground running, and we all have to work with them. However, I think even to this day, our biggest problem is council members are not following the charter, and we do not have a permanent mechanism to enforce these violations. As you know, Ms. Pittman, so there's several things that they're not defined. So say if somebody does something unethical, we can report them to the ethics board. And there's other ways to sanction council members. However,
excuse me for a minute, Councilmember Mitchell. We want our viewers to know that the views and options are those of the host and guests and not WCEG. We speak for ourselves. We alone are responsible, not WCEG. Okay, please continue.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what the conundrum we're in now. So say somebody does violate something in the charter, and then ethics complaint is filed. That can only go so far, as we discussed. So they might send back a recommendation, and then it's up to council, if we come to consensus, how to sanction this person. But what I've been finding is, I would say the oversight portion of that, right? So one, unless we have an audits every month, which is something I think we should start doing, in order to really know what your fellow council members are doing, you have to do an open records request for different things. I think that process needs to be opened up to some type of dashboard, somewhere where the public can see, and we won't necessarily have to put in these, go through so much efforts.
Okay, Councilmember Mitchell, would you please introduce yourself to our guests and let them know how they can contact you with all these great opinions you have?
Yes, sir. So I'm not sure if it's in the chat, but if you can, my phone number, my city cell phone number is 768-832-8118, and my email is T Mitchell, so it's going to be TMITCHELL, and that's at cityofeastpoint.org.
Okay, now Councilmember Mitchell, you were talking about oversight, not in
Okay.
non-enforcement of the policies, the charter and all. What did you
Yes.
see as right now as a glaring violation of the charter rules as it council members are doing that you plan to do something about that can be done quickly with the passage of your proposed legislation?
Yes. So I would say, so the piece of legislation I'm working on now, just for a little background, mainly is to create the Council of Expenditure. I'm sorry, to create a Council Expenditure Oversight Committee. And the purpose of that, so I do see this as a comprehensive oversight mechanism to review and monitor all budget allocations and actual expenditures of the mayor and council. This oversight shall include but not be limited to the examination of all expenses and disbursements made via credit card, check, wire transfer, electronic payment, purchase card, or other financial instruments. The oversight process shall include regular reviews and audits to ensure that all expenditures are lawful, appropriate, and aligned with adopted budgetary guidelines and ethical standards. So that's from the policy statement of the ordinance. What I think it kind of encompasses everything. I think that it's the oversight piece in there. And then there's an enforcement piece, but we add on to the end where the penalties are actually written down. I kind of think that's one thing the charter was missing, with kind of what I was alluding to earlier. So say if you do violate and then you found to be, it was unethical, this, that, and the third. I don't see like a matrix of, okay, so for this offense, there's a specific crime for it. I think that's a portion we are missing. So it will be in writing. I mean, we can censor them, but is there a limit on that? They can just keep doing the same thing and we just keep censoring them without having any, tangible repercussions. I think also with this piece of legislation, it would kind of take the burden off. So say if we did come to a consensus on somebody was found guilty or have done something unethical, then we would need another 5 votes to actually move on, say, some type of penalty, or it would take the majority of council to agree that, yes, we agree with the recommendation and this is going to happen, to be determined.
But now,
So,
Councilmember Mitchell, having been a council member and having had numerous ethics complaints filed against me to the ethics board, I found out, as many residents have, they were not effective because whatever the ethics board said, it came back to the council. And too often, friends of council members were the ones pointed to the ethics board, even though that is an assigned attorney. So when the ethics board made their recommendation and they would come back to the council, then it's up to the council who's been most complicit, if not the one addressed in the ethics complaint. So that we have that mechanism, but it's not working. You spoke about credit card payments. What kind of credit card charges are there that you're concerned about that you have seen on these credit card statements?
definitely. So I've seen restaurants, hibachi stop. I've seen grocery shopping. I've seen Amazon. I think that's one of the biggest, I think, policy that has been abused. I have my recommendations from that. But all kind of stuff that, as I would get into, had a missing receipt form. As I was actually reading through, so we're redoing our credit card and travel policy right now. It has not been finalized, but definitely we added stipulations for the missing receipt form. I know there's abuse of that. So there's no way you're going to buy something off of Amazon and say you don't have a receipt for it. So now the public doesn't know where their money went, and it's abusive. And I think even Mr. Freely said for certain people, 80% of the time the receipt was missing. So it's like, what are you spending this on that you clearly have a receipt? A lot of stuff, when you buy stuff up on the internet, it's there. So we have stuff specifically in place for that, because that's the biggest loophole that I think I found is, oh, we just fill out the missing receipt form and nobody asks any more questions about it. But
Well, in the light of transparency, these
yeah,
receipt forms should also be available through open records in the city clerk's office, where the credit cards are usually issued through the city clerk office. So anything that can be done to help the council enforce what they haven't been enforcing before, because this is really new. For the past 5 or 6 years, we didn't have outlandish spending on credit cards, going on trips out of the country, paying for transportation and hotel stays, and for things that do not involve the daily operations of the city, nor any impact on the council. So what kind of mechanism you will have in this ordinance that you're working on that will cause the council members who would violate this to stop, and those who don't, they don't want to get in, become involved in it? Do you have any thoughts on that just yet?
yeah. So even to that point, I have a specific example that limits the number of missing receipt forms per card holder and includes consequences for repeated use. So this is not in stone. So we can say the first time it happens and you're missing, a receipt, it would be repayment and a written warning, right? Second time it would be repayment and a 30-day suspension of card. Third time would be repayment and a 90-day suspension. And I think we spoke about this earlier, but the fourth time is they revoke your card and you can only do PO requests. But, I think the bigger point here is we actually have written down consequences for when somebody violates it. I think that was kind of the missing piece, in the ordinance to begin with, because once they found, unethical or guilty, now it's like, now what do we do? Even if you I'm not sure there's a limit on like censoring somebody, but if they just keep doing this thing over and over again, I don't think, I think we actually have to put something in writing that's tangible, that we can refer back to, depending on what the violation was. And
Well,
that
now
would,
you have some great ideas there already, with the different consequences for the first time, second time, and third time. No, there is no written policy or ordinance for that. Like I said, this is something that came up in the past 10 years, and it has escalated to where it is really, really, really out of hand. And when you say reimbursement, are you going to have in your legislation any kind of involvement with the city attorney in having to monitor this and put some bite into it, in case the council member says, okay, you said I went to Milan's, because that is one of the items on credit card bank statement that I've seen. Went over there and ate. Then I went and got gas. Now that came to, say, $60. Well, I'm not going to pay the $60. If I took a trip out of the country and that's $1,800 or $3,000, I'm not going to pay it. Well, individuals, there's not going to be a motion brought through the floor says, Councilmember so and so, you have to pay this, but then it bite into it that's going to make it happen. I think that it would come to be optimistic and effective if the city attorney were to get some come in on this, and once the city clerk, who's in charge still of the credit card statements, that those would be forwarded over to the city attorney's office for the city attorney to go through there and pull out those charges that are not allowed. He or she should know that, and then send that message information back to the council with the council member's name and amount owed.
right.
Now that's something that could be said.
I'm sorry. I was thinking we should put the time limit on it, even as you spoke. So, you know, after repayment in what, 30 days, 60 days, after that, we can garnish your check. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
If they refuse to repay, yeah, but I do think this is a start. So I know a lot of the violations do come down to travel and credit card. I think we can always, you know, we get other ideas later to add on or amend it or whatnot. But definitely the biggest abuse I saw was the missing receipt form. Um,
But
you know,
excuse me, have you thought about uh the city clerk keeping the credit cards and you sign them in and out when used? Because they're only supposed to be three times, three types of expenditures with that credit card. That's travel for um, travel that has been voted on by the council that comes under travel and training to certain conventions and all. You know, you can go to that. Then the other education, and then lastly, communication with residents. So those are the three occasions on which a credit card really is supposed to be used and not
right,
carried around in your pocket so that when you pass Macy's and you see those shoes, you go in and get them. Or when you go to in the grocery store, your cash is running low, you pull out the credit card because there have been many grocery items. Wakefield loves East Point City credit card. So does BJ's. I mean, BJ's has numerous hundreds. And what would you do when you get something like a third party, where you use your credit card to their PayPal and they pay, and you don't get the receipt back from PayPal, you just get the amount. So something would have to give, but you're doing a great job even to think it up, talk it up, and bring it to the public front. It is something that has been needed for a good while. Now,
I appreciate
and
it.
then
Still need
I
some
like the
work.
enforcement.
Yes, yeah. I think that's been the missing piece thus far. So people, you know, if there's no penalty for it, guess what? You're gonna keep doing it. So I think this is a great start, and we can apply this to other ordinances we have. Um, Even the transparency part, I would love to have the monthly audits. That way it would make it easier for everybody would be aware. So every month, you know, everybody's statements gets printed off and everybody has access to it. I mean, we can't really govern ourselves if we don't know what each other are doing because they're not going to tell us for the most part.
Okay, now that's the piece you have about the credit cards, putting a handle on that, getting a handle on that, and placing consequences for misuse of the credit card. Then you had another one that you were talking about that you're still working on, and what would like input in from the public. That's what I like about what you're doing. You're willing to talk to people, and great things come out of conversations when you listen and partake. Okay. Now, what was your next one?
So nextly, I have a start on an ordinance. I will read it to you. An ordinance to regulate authority of city council members in signing contracts and acting on behalf of the city.
Okay, now
So,
that okay, continue, please. Because
no, so go ahead. I'm
okay,
listening.
that comes under enforcement. Council
Yes.
members can't sign contracts. They have no administrative authority. That's why council members don't have any personal budgets or access to any personal funds outside of travel, training. We call that travel and training, education, and communications with the residents. So if any council person names appears on a contract, that too should be noted in your legislation. They are liable for that expense. They alone are liable because the council, did you all ever vote for any resident council member to do that?
Uh-oh.
Excuse me, where is that coming from? Mary, Mary.
Mr. Mitchell, if you wanted to elaborate while Mrs. Pittman checking on the background noise, you're free to do that if you want to elaborate on anything.
Sure. So basically what we had in the past was we would hire entertainment, say for certain events. There'd be no, oh, here she is.
Okay. Unmute yourself, Mrs. Pittman.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
sorry, that was the house alarm that went off. And and I was looking for the telephone because I know they were not supposed to be in here. Please forgive me.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, now, what I was talking about, since no council member can sign a contract for anything except with a vendor who is making consumable goods and all for residents. Then they can they can't sign that for them to deliver their supplies or flyers or signs or whatever that you're going to be using there. Otherwise, that contract is invalid. And the city manager is now on the hot seat. I would like to share for a few seconds, a few minutes, the episode that happened with me when I was a council member and before we had our revised charter review. I made the statement that our $1,500 could come out of my money to pay for some back to school supplies. Even though, and I made this statement to city finance director and at a council meeting. Well, when I called him the next day and to talk to him about that, when I heard about it, and he said, well, give me the name of the person over the Boy Scout troops, and I will contact them and I will deal directly with them. I said, okay. Well, later it became an ethics complaint that I had spent $1,500 for back to school supplies. Well, the money did not come out of my account. It was between the finance director and the Boy Scout troop. I made the statement. So I take responsibility because I was willing to have the money taken out if it was needed. But that was not the problem. Later, we went to the ethics board. Ethics board says, no problem, did not violate. Well, then later, there was still talk about it. So Councilmember Mitchell, Tremayne Mitchell here, father, Clyde Mitchell, was on the council at the same time I was. We didn't hesitate. We were overzealous when it came to accountability and all. So he made the motion to have the city to go to small claims court to get $1,500 back. Well, all the other council members voted for it unanimously. I agreed. I had no problem with it. So we went to small claims court downtown. On the day that we were to go, I called up Tom Jones from WSB-TV to come because I wanted that information to be out there so other council members would know and the residents would know what the outcome would be. Well, long story short, the judge stated that Councilwoman Pittman had no supervisory authority over the finance director. That person only supposed to take directions from the city manager. And if any money was spent, that was between the finance director, the city manager, and the council. And since no money had even been spent, but if it had been, it would still be the same. I could not authorize any person whom I did not supervise to do anything. Therefore, the case was dismissed. The city did not prove their case, and I have that in writing. It's over there at the city, and when it comes to cases, I'm for the city 0. So I kind of know what I'm talking about from time to time. And when Council Member Mitchell ran for mayor, I voted for him because he was right. You have a question. You think something is right in principle, then you follow it to the end and get as much information about it as you can. And I respect you for doing that. And of course, I ran against him and he won the seat. And now he's sitting here and we're agreeing like two old buddies. But
Right.
I'm going to support you and I support any council member who wants to do what is right now. You all are our representatives.
Yeah.
You all are responsible for what goes on in the city. And residents, we are responsible for helping those council members who want to do the right things. We have to email, we have to call, we may even have to protest, just like on the national level. Now, you know this is a problem. And here he is, the youngest one on the council, also less than 2 years on the council. But he is speaking up and speaking out, and he has a plan. And we're going to help him. Now, please continue to put your comments.
Yeah, so the reason I felt this ordinance needed to be drafted, because it hit me last year, we were having an event, it got rained out. And knowing that the practice of council, they just hand in invoices and pay them out, this, that, and the third. Question to myself, the first time it really came to me, it's like, did we already pay these people? And did we have a contract so we have any type of recourse to get our money back since the services weren't rendered because of the weather or they were rained out? Can never get an answer to that. And what recourse would we have if we are, blind enough to give money away? We give hundreds of thousands of dollars away with no contracts. Artists alone for the last event probably was around $100,000, no contracts. That's scary in itself. And then when I bring that to others' attention, like the city managers, oh, we got to have contracts. They were trying to say, oh, the PO that can be a contract too. I was like, no, that's a receipt. There's no legal language on there. There's no stipulations on there. It's just how much we pay out to them. We don't know where that money's going afterwards. We don't know who's getting it, whatever. So I think before even move first and foremost, I don't think we should be entering per our charter at a certain amount. I believe it might be 12,500 or yeah, that has to come before council. In certain instances, you have to have a contract. So simple things like that. I mean, it sounds simple, but everybody else knows to do it. However, apparently, like I said, that's why we can't keep a financial director or a city manager, because, our procurement processes and processes are not being followed at all. Nobody wants to be responsible. Then when money goes missing, nobody knows anything. So we just need oversight all the way from the top. We need a permanent finance director. We need permanent other people in other positions. I think the whole department needs to do some hiring. But this is just one caveat to make sure that doesn't happen again, because apparently people has been signing off on large amounts without consulting counsel or legal. And we have to protect ourselves and taxpayer dollars.
Well, now that's the truth. And this event that comes up, one is coming up tomorrow, went down Wednesday. There is not a single document that shows where council ever voted in a council meeting to have a Went Down Wednesday event in the city. Now, no city funds, public funds, according to our charter, are supposed to be spent from any budget allocation above $12,000, under $12,500 without coming back before the council. There are few exceptions in which they do not have to come before the council. All our bond debt, all of our multi-year contracts, all of our contracts with utility company, well, we all have our own utilities, but with things with that, that's where you're gonna have your multi-year contracts. You have multi-year contracts with SPLOST. Well, no, you shouldn't have that either, because that should be done on an ad-bid basis. We do not have a purchasing director in place. Any money allocated in the budget before it can be withdrawn and spent, it has to go to the purchasing director. These are our policies. The purchasing director has to make sure that nothing is put out there without a bid, even though it comes back sole service provider. You can't do that. And it cannot be a member of your family, a friend, or whatever. You have to speak up and say, this is a conflict of interest. There's no transparency at all with Wind Down Wednesday. $450,000. $450,000 in the budget in this budget for Wind Down Wednesday has been transferred to the non-departmental budget. That is, no department can undertake to do this because it does not come under a duty or responsibility of the city. When items are located in the non-departmental budget, the city manager is the one who says, this has come in for a request for these funds. That does not mean that there's under discretion of the city manager. The city manager does not have any discretionary spending allowance. As the sole administrator of the city, he has access to all the general funds, enterprise funds. Anything should come up, there's a reserve fund there for that. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes out of the non-departmental, it has to go over to purchasing. If there's an entertainment, and this is one of the same reasons why, to show how stupid it is to say, well, we can have it. How many entertainers are out there? Well, when the bid goes out, you say you want a rhythm and blues entertainer. Every rhythm and blues entertainer has the ability to apply, to put in a bid. And why that? I like Western, but they can apply. I like country, that can apply. I like rap, that can apply. And then, what do you want the bid and how much? Then you have bands. Let me tell you all one thing, residents out there. When we were in charter review in 2006, that commission, the people that carried that out under the state of Georgia state legislature that was signed into law for East Point from there. We were told, you have to stop having lunches for your retirees. You cannot spend public money on lunches for retirees. You cannot spend public money on balls for firemen, balls for the police, public safety balls. You cannot spend money on food unless you are a supervisor having a training or work seminar with people under you. For a certain, if that's going to be longer than a certain amount of time, then you can provide food for that. You're not having any money for entertainment. The governor wants to have, after the inauguration, you want to have a ball or part of whatever, private money. That goes for the president of the United States, private money. So send it East Point, come up and say, oh, I want to have so to come out here, and we're going to pay, even if it was $1, it's unenforceable, because you can't do that. But we're talking about $450,000. The council members do not know when that money is going to be spent, how that money is going to be spent. Was it based on our things? Even after that, anything? No. And why do you have to have a VIP team? I've never gotten invited. And you have a senior ball. I don't go to the senior silver ball for seniors. Was invited one time. I don't go because I know it's not right. It's not right. And council members, you are giving your authority, which you should not do, and it's not in keeping with our form of government, when you allow the city manager to pay for any invoice that should have a contract and did not follow procedures in being paid for. Only two signatories, the finance director and the city manager. If any invoice comes in for this went down Wednesday tomorrow, I am going to open records. I already have it start writing now. I want to see every contract. I want to see who, because on the last contract invoices, that information was redacted. There is no such thing as redacting information on a public thing like this. These do not involve any children and the vulnerable people and the things that where it's going to be hurtful or harmful to them. These are contracts that was for a party. So nothing should, that is nothing private. You should, trying to preserve anybody's reputation, anybody's sanity, except the ones who may have gotten $1, $2, or $3, or $4, $3, 100, or whatever under the table. No transparency. I wanted to get an injunction. However, when I found out Friday night, that's when I found out Wind Down West was still going on. It had been canceled for the last one, so I thought it was canceled, period. Well, I found out it wasn't. When I sent the email and all to my attorney and made the call, she's in Jamaica. That was Friday. And I knew that the injunction would have to be filed first thing Monday if it was going to be enforced on Wednesday with an unlikely choice. But the next one, there would be an injunction, because not any more public money in the city of East Point is going to be spent like this. And who else? Let me tell you this, when the city loses, they're going to pay my attorney fees. But right now, you made the statement at the very beginning. You said the council members are not enforcing.
Yes.
And they're not. That is why I've called on the residents to file a writ of mandamus in court that would compel every elected official at East Point to follow all the laws that you have on the books. And the one that says, when any money allocated in the budget is spent, before it is spent, except for certain items, it has to go back before the council. We have a purchasing orders that says purchases and all have to be, if you want to call it, vetted by the finance director.
Right.
You could be going around here having your great grandmama name on a contract or whatever. And we're paying out money to that. It's not right, like you said. And I am proud that you are standing up. You see this Ward C, my Ward C, are standing up. The other ward's gonna have to come out. But the residents have to get behind this. If you want what Council Member Mitchell is working on, these are two ordinances. He's working on it. He asked you for input. He's giving you his telephone number and email. Put it in an email. What you think and support it when it comes up on the agenda. Be at that meeting, letting them know you want this done. Now, Council Member Mitchell, you have 20 more minutes. We need for you to tell us all that you want to talk about right now about East Point and any other budget items. If not budget items, what about the audit?
So we do have an audit coming out. I think we may have a date. Hold on. I have to get back to you on the date. However, that's not sure how much I can say right now until it becomes public, but we have some other issues. It's basically dealing with this oversight and people doing things that are conflicts of interest. You know, it'll be a lot to unpack. However, I do think this is crucial Uh, the whole oversight committee, I would love to get that intact. They would take the pressure off other 5 council members. Everybody, it's not a Miss Pittman, and and willing to stand up. So we will. The way it works is, the council will select 3 people, and those 3 people will, because that would be the oversight committee, and they will be the ones making judgments and enforcing the rules that we hopefully can put on the books. And hopefully this will be an evolving ordinance. But I think could be a mechanism. We have the enforcement piece. We have the repercussions written down. I think this could be the start of something great. And like, once again, because it's really hard to get the consensus on council, those 5 votes, and ethics board, like you said earlier, it's always somebody's friend of a friend. As we are a self-governing body, because we can't ask the clerk to enforce something on us, or the city manager, especially when we're technically their superiors, put them in a hard predicament. So I think this could be a route to start enforcing it. Let your peers do it, and you let the peers who you want to do it. And we have guidelines on, what they can and can, penalties and repercussions and not. But yeah, I think this is the beginning of us starting to enforce it. I'm open to definitely ideas. I love hearing different points of views, but this is a work in progress. One more thing I know has been an issue lately, and because we don't necessarily have an ordinance for. I've been getting a lot of complaints about the parties at the Airbnbs and pool parties, and they're sending code enforcement out there. But do you know how that works, Ms. Pittman? So if you're staying in the Airbnb, I'm not sure if it's legal or not. So you have guests there. So with the guests, so if we send people out there to code enforcement out there to ticket them, would they pay the ticket, or would it be the homeowner? You know what I mean?
Well, now that all depends on what is in the Airbnb contract, but it would be the homeowner. And then it's up to the homeowner, who's ever is rented to that night, that day, that group will be gone. I'm not sure what is in the latest update on that, and that bears looking into. But with our strong council and weak mayor, council manager form of government. Our government is a council manager form of government, not mayor manager form of government. So we need to hold our mayor accountable. There are programs being run out of her office. She is not an administrator. That is stated in the charter. Neither is any council member is an administrator. So they have no personal budget outside of the ones that stated previously. And when it comes to the audit, that council can't sit on that audit. Once the auditor signs off on he or she has completed it, then it is presented to the council. And the council can vote to accept or reject it based on what? If you reject it, then this is the person that you all have put out a bid for, who had you signed to do the audit. If the findings in the audit are such that it's going to make the council look bad, you cannot reject it on those grounds if those grounds are supported by documentation in the audit. So members are out there, we want that audit before the next council, come before the next council meeting to give to this public. We have waited 2 years. It doesn't take 2 years to do this. It doesn't. So even now, we don't know. Are we in the red? Are we in the black? We don't know. And council members are not supposed to form cliques with the city manager at all. At all. We have other concerns at East Point too, and I want someone on the council Councilmember Mitchell, you might be back next week. I mean, at the next time I'm on here, because we're having investors buying up multiple single family dwellings in East Point. And they are getting to the point where they might, with senior citizens like myself and all, either going to own with twins or going to live with care of someone else out of their homes. They could easily become the biggest homeowners in the neighborhood, in the city. And my next meeting is going to be on August the 5th. So we want to talk about that. I also want to talk about we're not having a problem with these data centers. Let's sit aside fully. They are just all over the place, taking up valuable land, using up utilities. We pay the cost for our utilities. We own the electric utilities. It takes so much more to keep that equipment in there cool, meaning we're having to generate more power that for that one facility that we're not getting any property tax out of anymore than we would maybe 10 businesses there with different permits and fees. We have to look at that. Now, with Union City is coming in with a lot of data centers, and they're looking at those. Atlanta put a moratorium on theirs. So these are things that we have to look at. And we also need to be mindful. There are residents in our cities who are not seniors, who are homeowners, who are paying property taxes, whose income is less than sometimes one senior citizen. I know plenty of residents, two parents working or one trying to work, whose income is less than my pension alone. But what is going on the national level, coming down to the state level, local governments need to be very, very careful with how they are spending money. And I'm so glad, Councilmember Mitchell, that you are looking at these credit cards, because that's not out there. But another failing of this council. When are you all going to start having budget meetings?
Great question.
I mean, here it is, July. We're past the budget, but we haven't had one budget meeting. Why can't you why don't we have a budget meeting? We have 3 council members and a resident that was appointed at the first meeting in January. Who's the chairperson?
So we don't have a chair. So like we have one next week. There's no chair right now. I think that's the biggest holdup. And that was a whole discussion. That was a whole nother frustrating discussion we had to have, because but as now we've been letting the mayor chair it.
Well, now the mayor is an extemporaneous member of the committee. You have 3 members. She can't chair chair the meeting.
I said that, so, but you know, it was a whole. It is very frustrating. I would say this. So just for the sake of doing business, let that go. We passed the budget, but I think now is a good time to bring that back up. And to your point earlier, something else that I've been working on, I might actually put it on the work session. Maybe I can get your thoughts live. So when you're talking about taxes in the elderly, so I know we get a lot of our revenue from property taxes. However, doing my research, and I can shoot this to you later, but what do you think about dropping the tax exemption age to 65? I know it's at 70 right now.
Well, now,
Property
everybody at this point knows that Pittman, since I've been as council member, as mayor, I've had a problem just taking seniors off the road simply because they turned 70, with their incomes and all being what it is, and especially living on the highest assessed property in the city by most senior citizens. But then we have to have police protection. We have to have fire service. We're not paying taxes to pay for those services. We're living in East Point rent-free. And when we say, well, I've been living there 50 years and I pay taxes, well, if you're still paying income taxes, you put it on your income tax, so you didn't even pay for that because you got it back. We need to go and have our tax, go back and look at our tax base. You can gradually increase the homestead exemption on any age group, a group of disabilities, and veterans, in order for their full property taxes not be paid, but it's in keeping be paid with what their income is.
Right.
Even
So
for seniors, with their income.
Even with the rates, it's not keeping up with inflation, and the cost of living goes up, but you're on the fixed income. It usually doesn't equate, and then once things start happening, gentrification, new houses being next thing you know, you can't pay your property tax. That's typically how gentrification starts, is you get taxed out your home. And then somebody comes in and scoops it up but definitely was concerned. It may need a little bit more work, but definitely lowering that age. And like you said, we might take into consideration the income of the individual, maybe have some type of sliding scale.
That's what we're talking about. We're doing our property tax ordinance. A task force really needs to be set up, but we can't even get a budget committee. How do you know what's going on? How the money's being spent every month? Right. And can't get a chairperson to call a meeting, because in the new legislation that has passed since I left the council, the ordinance says the mayor appoints the chairperson. Now, what is the mayor? You all need to go back and amend that, repeal that out, and the 3 members and resident on the council will elect their own chairperson. But then the mayor will still be an extemporaneous member. She comes to the meetings, or he will come to the meetings. They could have a voice, no vote. That's what I did for the 4 years I was there. Attended every meeting, finance and budget. And we don't even have finance, not budget committees that are meeting on this council. We need help. We need to help you to help them to do what they need to get done, so we can talk about parity in the city, knowledge and transparency. That's not happening now. And we're talking about residents who used to get help from the community. We still get food from the community bank. That's going to be cut because the food was cut by President Trump. But we used to get CDBG, Community Building and Development Grants. That would help low families on a certain income level, not age, to get a new roof for their home, plumbing, water and sewer, flooring, wiring, heating and air. We don't have that now. Do you know what $450,000, how many families at East Point that need that would help?
Right.
I mean, really, that's why I am so glad that you are working on legislation that would hold the council members and all accountable. But to enforce that, we still need to get a writ of mandamus. We need to do that. And the community bank is still operating in East Point. So I don't know for how long and at what level that is going to continue. We do know that Meals on Wheels no longer will be funded, but some of these items will not go in effect until after the November election next year. They're being trimmed down. You can't get in touch with anybody. You can't get help, so it might as well be done now. But that is going to be that, and we need to have representatives like you working conscientiously, open for discussion, open for new ideas, but holding yourself accountable and holding the other council members accountable. That's what our charter is written. Each council member up there is an officer of the city of East Point and holding each other accountable. When that fails to happen, then we get chaos, corruption, and some of everything else. It is ridiculous that we, as a city of almost 135 years, might be longer than that, do not have a budget committee or a finance committee. And we want to talk about a budget, and it have not had a meeting this year. And where is the audit report that started almost 2 years ago? We still want to know what happened to the money from Romono the No. We still haven't gotten that answer. But that is not on you. You were not on council then, but you're on council now. And this audit report at the next council meeting, it ought to be prepped there and open to the public. The city of East Point paid for that. That's an open record audit. You cannot hide it. So it's time to bring it back there so we will know what happened to the money. And we would also need to know who is signing off on these contracts for these different events and who are they benefiting.
Right.
All right. Now, if you, there is a charge for open records. That's 10 cents a page, said it's 10 cents a page. And if it's a large volume, the person who has to do the research, it is their salary. I don't think many folks have gotten the kind of receipts I have for open records, $181, $157, because I asked for it, and they know when I ask, I want. Don't the Attorney General downtown would get the notice, and he's already, like that, told him he was not going to send anybody else out there to East Point when I was mayor. And if any resident put in an open records request, it is how you word it. One little word can say, we don't have it. The city is not required to compile any kind of chart, get any kind of information that is not already available and in print to a resident. So make sure you ask for information that should already exist. State law said they are not supposed to try to create what you ask for. So make sure of your wording. And we won't start making telephone calls to these council members and asking them, where are you with legislation that's on the agenda that's being proposed to do X, Y, and Z. Now, I don't know when you'll be ready to put your ordinance on the agenda. But if you give me notice, I'm going to help get it out to the residents that this is the information that is being proposed, and we need you to call the other 7 council members and have them to vote yes for it. And if those of you who oppose it, then call and get in touch with Council Member Mitchell and talk to him. You have questions, he'll answer them. We need to do that. All right. If there is another, let's talk about.
I think we got, she said we have 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we still have 2 minutes. So
thank you. I enjoy, I enjoy our conversation, always informative. But definitely thank you for having me on the show, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Oh, thank you so much, Councilmember Mitchell. We will definitely be bringing you back to find out the progress of the legislation you talked about today and other legislation or issues that have not come about with legislation that you think that the residents need to know about. And of course, Fulton County property taxes are going up, City of East Point. Property tax time for discussion. So you need to get in touch with all your council members and keep your ear to the ground to see what they're talking about. Thank you so much, Councilmember Tremayne Mitchell, Ward C, East Point, for coming on and sharing your views with us and providing us with helpful, informative information.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Same to you, dear. Goodbye.